So today we're going to just talk a little bit why we're here and what we're doing and where we're evolving to, what the challenge was, our approach at ADCON, and as I've already alluded to, the common data, our workflow that we introduced, a bit of a case study. Modena's done quite well today to set up myself with one of our recent developments, Santon Gate. We are located on Modena. We recently achieved record completion. It's opened up. One or two major restaurants still to trade next month. And we're lucky to have Elzan, our architect, to follow me up, no pressure. And then we'll go through a bit of digital tools in action. I think just to kick off on the challenge and where projects go wrong, is that from my side of things, we don't build projects, we build certainty by design. So frustration stems from the fact that designs, in my experience, reached a revision 27 at tender phase. Yeah, all the consultants are nodding. You even nodding. So that frustration stemmed from the fact that the development team, client team, shelter team didn't define a brief. Didn't actually understand or constitute what the development was going to be from the start. Didn't stick to the mandate. Didn't understand or reverse engineer what we were actually trying to achieve as best as possible. We have a systemic problem in South Africa that, and again being on the consultant front, and now being on the client front, I thought it was a client problem, but it's not. It's a South African problem. It's a finance-driven problem that we are on risk for the majority of stage 1 to 4. Do we want to be on risk for 3 years? No. Do we want to be on risk for a long period of time? No. We have to be in a position to get certainty quicker, risk to resolve quicker, and teams confident throughout that process of risk. So my mandate was to make sure that brief was clarified, scope was clarified, certainty was clarified, and we made sure that that process was clarified by a common data environment. When we came up with our mission statement and a future developed, which is basically our slogan, we took it quite serious, and we wanted to become the leaders that are, in my opinion, slowly but surely becoming the leaders in the industry. And by doing so, we wanted to be future planning by leveraging the tools that are available. I'll get to evolving tools and how we're looking to become the next 5 years and the next 10 years in part of the talk. Whoopsie, there's probably double actions. So without reading through this, I'm going to talk to it. Basically, only the vision and the outcome comes from two things. What we do is we sit down as a collaborative shareholder group or team, and we sit down and we look to reverse engineer the development from the start. So we look at the problem solving, the total FIR, we look at everything that we need to solve, and then basically, from as far as we can, dynamically from a feasibility, we look to price the scheme that's going to work as best as possible. And if we can get the metrics right, we try and do our best to make sure that the scheme is briefed from a cost dynamic, and then secondly, from a conceptual design dynamic. What's important though, and Elzan will agree with me, is that we try and do our best to not rationalize and constrict our architectural team to making sure that we give them such a brief that they are constricted to creativity. So if I do so within the brief, we align our commercial goals with the design intent and the delivery reality, and we translate the gap between envision, execution, and manage the expectations between our finance, our design, operations, and construction teams. And you'll see how we get this right through the review process. And ACC and the BIM world will start collaborating through this process now. Traditionally, and you will agree, where this starts going wrong, we sit down, architect, ourselves, team, QS, and we say, here's land, this is what we want to do, this is what we're thinking about, retail center, plus minus 25,000 squares, it's very complex, access, etc. What do you guys think? Just give us 4 weeks, we'll come back to you. Come back to us. Boom, what do you think? Joe Soap thinks Y, Pete Pompey thinks X, and Sarah thinks great scheme. Everyone puts an opinion on the table. By the end of the day, that design will be pulled apart 3 times, and the architect leaves the brief going back to the head office saying, I think they liked it, but I think first floor needs to come out, second floor needs to change, and I think the facade needs to be pink. Ultimately, that's the traditional way of briefing. And I think some of you may be nodding or not nodding, I'm not sure. But The manual paper-based workflows, communication breakdowns across the team, and then silo design coordination, we found quite quickly wasn't working. So we started instituting mass modeling and supporting the Revit modeling schemes from the beginning. Ultimately, that meant that through a design review concept from the start, we started introducing a walkthrough of the model concept with the shareholding team and approval teams from the start. The visualization of something that went from 2D to 3D to 4D was exceptionally powerful. A boardroom screen that is big enough for somebody to put a first person on the ground, understand magnitude, understand height, understand everything else in terms of scale, became exceptionally powerful. At conceptual level, it didn't mean color, it didn't mean paint, it didn't mean type of roof, but it meant scalability, access, basic requirements of the building. And it meant that we started getting tick boxes so that the brief started developing itself in terms of the next stages. So we started using the metrics of the standard proxy, start developing itself in terms of the brief. What we found with the architect teams was that we found that we started collaborating stronger, the support was stronger, the speed was stronger, and everything else started working again, with us instead of against us. What we also found all of a sudden was the structural engineers had a brief. It was quicker. But the civil engineers had a brief. It was quicker. And our turnarounds were quicker. Our QS didn't sit there trying to do rough sums. We were quicker to find that our feasibilities were making sense. So the tool of visualization, modeling, and associating this started working everything opposite to what we used to be able to do. And because they were collaborating in a common data model, we were able to then, in the next review, bring everything together. And what we found was not 20 objections, 1 objection. And the next one, 0 objections. What paint color are you going to use? So all of this started working out, and as we tested this, it started working through its phases. And on Sandton Gate specifically, I'll show you the test spec. Basically, we were able to design coordinate 26,000 screens in 3 months through its necessary phases with the necessary review processes that we used. So the tools worked, everything worked, and with the assistance of the teams that we had, it really dynamically came together. The cost and loss intent to the old school time, we know money. Do we have any QSs here? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many times are you going to do an estimate? How many times you make an assumption? That change on revision 27. Variation orders become the language. We were pretty solid in terms of knowing where we were, knowing where the risk was, assumptions and constraints were known. We could at least clearly state where we knew the risks were. All right? Trust. You start mistrusting everybody when you make assumptions. And I can tell you a good example of an assumption that from a consultant background, in the days of me being one of the consulting project managers, walking into a stage 5 construction 3 weeks before practical completion, I'll never forget. Walking into the main mall entrance with a client to be on site once. And walking into the main entrance saying, wow, I can't believe you built this height so low. Oh, it was a main entrance. And I kind of, what reaction do you have? This mall's built. That assumption and trust, you don't feel the same again. You feel disappointed. You've got to open a mall. You've let that client down. And then that's what I'm alluding to, is that by walking through something, you don't have that you have the trust. You understand it's been seen, it's been walked through. And then obviously quality as we go through. Then our approach at AppCon, I've spoken quite a bit through this already. I'm not going to reiterate. But I think the key one I've said over here at the bottom is that we start mitigating all the stop-start. And I think there's nothing more frustrating than taking 1 step forward, 10 steps back. And we mitigate the red tape. And we integrate and we move forward quick. So how do we do this? With an exceptional level of detail and assistance from a proper execution on a BIM execution plan. All right, support from the development team and the support from a developer understanding what a BIM execution plan is, all right, and inputting the necessary details from the brief being understood, and then supporting the architect to be a lead in the BIM execution plan, platforming how Autodesk Construction Cloud actually works, what the common data environment does. And this is actually an old slide, but basically in the technical world, the developer himself, ourselves, live in our own Autodesk construction world or cloud. And you as an architect and consultant world will continue to work in a BIM collaboration world with the architect. And with the assistance of a bridge, every 2 weeks via the BIM execution plan, you will work through a design coordination and a design development schedule that we program as a developer and the project management team in hand with the architect to achieve key milestones for us that are required for us to review the design at certain key points for us and the cost team to make sure that we are receiving uploaded models, uploaded drawings, uploaded requirements at key stages. We then leave that dynamic of the BIM execution plan, the program requirements, etc., back to the architect team and the lead consultants to drive that process. We're not there to babysit that process. We're not there to, oversee that process throughout your own professional experience. And that's basically the little protocols, and I say little, but some of these are a little bit extensive, but the onboarding has been probably challenging for some of the older school consultants. But if you have a strong lead consultant being an architect firm or an architect team that understands the importance of a BIM execution plan, and you have a support mechanism like a Modena or a software mechanism to start onboarding the teams correctly with BIM execution plans supported by those necessary team leaders, then these start talking to each other. And basically that's elementally what I've just described. So we've got a developer and construction hub, and you guys live in a design hub, which doesn't change. And in 2 weeks, by the execution plan, there's an upload. And we receive it into a client review folder, and in our meetings, we go through the changes, we go through a brief, and every month odd, we go through a full review. You'll see how that works. I'll get to a bit more details and go through. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this just does talk to a bit of our protocol, and it talks to the BIM execution plan. And it talks to how the team uploads, what we're looking for, if it's a yes or no or change, it goes back into design or back into revision, and we change again. But I just want to allude to the fact that because the brief was resolved, because the review process was resolved, the objections are minimized. So we're not talking about redesign in the building. We're talking a move of a column, or reduction of a height. We're talking about a change of a door position. We're not talking about a massive change. We're talking mainly from a developer's perspective. We're talking as a reviewer. We're talking now the ability to interface on the model as somebody who's using the building. So, Zahn's nodding. But it's the ability to now interface as a developer to actually put yourself in the boots and the feet of somebody using the building, and not just looking at it from a drawing architectural perspective. So you actually have the ability to use the space and say, if I were using that as a tenant, I wouldn't want that. If I was using this as an operations manager, I wouldn't want that. And you have the ability to review it in that manner instead of purely from a cost and development space. So that's elementally what we're busy doing during the typical design review processes through the space. We've spoken enough about the brief, so I'm going to skip through this. This is just quite an interesting diagram. Patrick McTeamy really seems like quite a clever guy. Well done to him, because this is basically what I've just been discussing, and this is the South African problem. I'll sort of take you through it. I'm going to step right into number 4. These are the stages of our standard proxy stages. So prelim, detail, construction, and operation. Basically, the peaks and troughs are how much time we spend, effective cost and effort. So how much time we spend as a design team, a professional team, a developer, all of that in executing something in the development process. Number 4 is what we've been able to slowly but surely get right via the use of the processes, reviews, and BIM execution planning, plus the modeling that I'm describing what we're going to get, which is elementally getting the off-risk or the on-risk work done as quickly as possible to get an achievable, successful, feasible project ready, primed and sorted without too much on-risk time spent by the team. Whereby if we take the cost of design changes in the traditional design process, you can start seeing what we traditionally start doing in a normal process or a normal project. We have fatigue, we have revision 27 happening, we have all the rest of it. So that's just a visual concept of what I've just discussed at the introduction to all of this. So Stanton Gates, just a bit of a case study. Reduced project duration. I'm going to get a bit excited about this because I'm the project management side of things and mindset. So duration. Where do we evolve because of modeling? Consultants and project management world. What do we get out of being able to see a model from a project manager? Well, we visualize the build. I'm able to do that pre-tender. Able to understand what challenges we have, structural, civil, architectural finishes, etc. So from a program standpoint, cost standpoint, value engineering standpoint, acceleration standpoint, all of that, risk standpoint, we can visualize what we need to do from a time overview. As the QS allowed for 14 months, 16 months, whatever the case is. From a civils, even as far as that, so now you're able to model your civil books. Excitedly now, we're partnering with Modena to move into 5D, I've never heard of it, 10D, believe it or not. You can program and model water through a pipe. But modeling and visualizing your build fully. Bar chart running underneath the necessary build, preemptively before the build. Cost-wise, curious, we'll get to it, but you can actually visually see your BOQ running underneath that. So at any point, call it July 27, 2027, stop the bar chart. You can see you needed 16 columns built. Ultimately, you're on July 2027, you can go visually see via progress on site, you have 15 columns built. Time progress, delays, extension of times, there's a hell of tools available because of modeling. Because you can do comparisons. You can look at what should have been, what is, and what isn't done in terms of modeling. So modeling gives you a visual. That allowed us to do a hell of a lot of work with the main contractor when we started looking at it, because it was a difficult problem. That allowed us to work through how we're going to do this. If you've seen Sandon Gate, it's 4 levels, 2 basements, plus 2 towers on top of Rita. Extremely difficult, challenging build. How to mitigate delays, etc. We came down by mitigating 4.5 months of program by working it through the model. Okay, transfer beams, change, etc. to make sure the program worked. We mitigated 35% of construction, pre-construction design development phase on the design development plus, I wanted to mention on the design development plus the actual construction timeline. We mitigated 4.5 months. So over and above the design phase, we also then mitigated timeline on the actual construction side. So massive wins on time. Cost savings, and this was due to, apologies for the font size, early identification of design scope, ability to see it, identifying where the big items are, the big peaks, and realize that we reduce cost savings. Enhanced collaboration and 30% reduction in design-related rework. Because we were able to see it, we didn't need to rework it. Early identification, review sessions, etc. And then drastic improvement of all construction-related contractor metrics on site. I'll talk to the contractor side now. We had a few on how we work through that. So center gates, as I alluded to, what do we do on site? We had live cameras to get the ability now to be able to compare it. Models, walkthroughs, renderings, comparisons. There's no reason from a contractor, professional team, ourselves, for anybody, in comparison to all four, from a metric of understanding what's happening on that building, you can see exactly what should be happening on that build. You have a visual concept of everything. As far as the check is signed, even, that was a last revision, that's the rendering, these photos, etc. are dated, but the point is that as we go through these concepts, as we go through these items, the idea of the model to the drawings to the integration on site, the ability for someone to understand exactly what is happening on site is perfect. The ability to raise an RF5 based on the model versus the drawing is there. So everything is visual. Our brain in my opinion, works best visually. Mukesh is one of my senior project managers. Worked with Alzan on the project. This is a snapshot one of my colleagues took. That's me in my little office, in the older office before we moved upstairs. That's us working through live RFI. It's an RFI raised by a contractor on site through the basement phases of construction in one of the drawings on a structural drawing. On the PM and DM side, what I'm mentioning in this slide is that we had 40% faster decision making through live FAST and approval tracking in ACC. We had 25% reduction on site rework, 35% improvement on program certainty, and 0 major issues for construction scope gaps, and seamless handovers, fully tracked closeouts. This example, I know exactly where it was openings up for future fans and extraction fans on the roadside facing on Winnie Mandela. And it was through potential shear walls and structural walls that we had to mitigate and understand. We used the model interface with this drawing to understand what and how we needed to do this problem solving, and it was done within a matter of 25 minutes. The powerful tool that we have here is the visualization and ability to understand what we needed, drawing versus mock. Outcomes and opportunities. I wanted to spend a bit more time on this because a lot of what I've talked about now is where we've moved to, but I wanted to talk about, I think you missed 1 or 2 slides on my document, but it's all good. I want to talk to where we're moving to. So AppCon itself is now integrated with the full property team. So that involves the operations of facilities, the asset management team, as far as the finance, backing, etc., all the rest. So we are fully functioning and moving into the ACC world for FM, property management, integration, etc. That excites me because not only from a common data environment involvement from an internal, call it professional integration, but from an internal company side of things, it means integration and asset and closeout management, post-development. It means whatever as-built information has been living throughout the process of the project, as well as the asset registers, as well as historical information, everything else is living in the same environment as what we're handing over to the FM teams. So ultimately, from the FM being facilities management, we're starting to create a common data environment, historical data evidence, and a handover that's not. Had anyone else done handovers before? Yes, it's there. 4 handover files, and a year later, no one can find and the roof's leaking, and no one can find the waterproofing guarantee. We know it. It's a problem. It's a problem in our industry. It's not only our industry. ISO standards, I don't know what ISO stands for. It does, we know this problem. It's an ongoing fatigue issue in our industry. And this is solvable, in my opinion, via the next 3 years. Data foundation for twin digital readiness. I'm sure your brother friends over there are going to talk enough about that. But you guys do a lot of that. There's a lot of talk about it. The interesting fact is that from the MEFE consultants here, mechanical, electrical, fire, etc., is that you guys are able to plug in your models already. When we in concept and in detailed design already, you're able to plug in your generators, plug in everything. If my facilities teams and asset teams are already at that point, there's no reason why no one can understand how this building should operate. There's no reason at that point to really be able to review what the assets are going to cost, how long the maintenance periods are, how they're operating in efficiencies, how they're operating in rates, what they should be costing in terms of operation costs, etc. From a net zero perspective, how much are they going to be costing per month? Am I able to mitigate that? What double glazing system should I be doing? We should be able to be problem solving through the digital twin model. So digital twin is again something that we plugged in from all aspects. Data coordination integration. This is the award-winning system that Modena was kind enough to enter myself into last year, and we ended up winning the 40 Under 40 award last year, which is an international award, over 7,000 nominations worldwide. I think first South African nomination in a while, and we won it. I think we were top 20. So, end of the day, what we did with tenant coordination was we took the traditional tenant coordination process, and with the assistance of Modena, we processed workflow that into ACC. Alzan will back me on this one. We did it through the entire Santing Gate process. If anyone done tenant coordination before? Send an email to the tenant. The dead average on tenant coordination is 46 emails. Calculate. 46 correspondence emails, all right? That's without the outreach to 12 consultants. If you include that, dead average 112 emails. 110. You with the sector, 46 tenants, times by 112, that's what you're leaving. We took that down to taking tenant information to an exportive theme via the ACC work. So what we were able to do was do technical reviews and full reviews of tenant information via one platform, export that via reports, and allow our tenant coordination team to do one email at each interface of the tenant coordination process, instead of having everyone included in every single corridor from you, which floods your information. If you're doing 5 malls like a developer, or you're doing 6 projects, or you're doing 12 malls, and you times an email by how many, you got Mr. Price, Mr. Price, Mr. Price. So that helped us significantly. It's working, it's moving, and it's, in my opinion, one of the most powerful tools that's been developed through the process. Further design and costing acceleration. Mr. Curious, you'll be excited about this. Simon's still studying my document. Nearly there. Yes, okay. We are excitedly moving ahead with Simon and the team and potential partners on the Curious front. Warwick's seen the Curious Association of South Africa, I understand, to also move them in. One of the slowest moving guys in this industry is the Curiouses. Because you guys like your web Curiouses and your hard documentation and your 25-year-old textbook from university. No offense. When it comes to models, it freaks you out. You like the DWGs, and you like saying, when Curious special for me, and figure a document. You don't like seeing these things. So we're trying to get the Curiouses here, because ACC has got cost management. ACC has got AI. As a developer, excites me, because it excites me as a tool. AI, you would have heard Jay, I'm sure, as one of his slides, you need direct AI. You can't just tell AI what to do and leave it alone. But as a forefront of tools, we're looking at very much moving into value engineering and very much moving into feasibility and very much using AI plus Curious interface on cost management for order of magnitude, checking of value engineering, and then into the project for cost management. Imagine having the following, Mr. Curious. When a model gets uploaded and your architects decided to change 3 columns, but you just get it uploaded by AI and you'll have your red flags change in variationals. Imagine. Yeah. Now he's inside. So that's where we want to go. And vice versa, if your electrical changes something to different place, same point. If a model upload allows a measure to be done by a change, we want AI to come in. So we see this as a tool. We don't see it as something foreign. We would like to very much use it. So we get excited about it, and we want to bring it in, and also the repetitive tasks. There's quite a bit missing on my slide here, but it's all good. Just in terms of contractor, I'm going to talk to a challenger now. I don't think you got my final slide here. It's all good. I'll just free talk, if that's okay. As my time up, then we've got a Q&A. But I've missed quite a few items here quickly. I'll just rationalize it for everybody. The contractor involvement, just so everybody's aware, because we have a holistic life cycle, because I've spoken a lot about professionals. And I think it's just very important to understand that this life cycle doesn't exist with the whole, this integration doesn't exist without the whole life cycle. And we're talking about challenges now. I'm making it all sound easy. that change management is probably one of the most difficult things in this industry when it comes to this. And we pioneered it by the development side of things because we felt it was important to take the lead. But by no means is that easy. Like I've expressed to Simon, like I've expressed to Jay, that unless you're in the face of making this the change and realizing that this is the way forward, it's difficult. When we take the ACC world to the contractor world, like I've just run 2 tenders, I just had 10 interviews yesterday, and I'll say, Mr. Main Contractor, you understand by our tender documentation, you'll be onboarding with Autodesk Construction Cloud. It will help you. Your common data environments can be ACC. And the guy says, okay. He doesn't know what he's getting into. He's no idea. But once they're in, they kick. But that change takes time. And that time sometimes is a challenge. And that interface is probably the challenge we all face in this industry. The time it takes for change management is probably the challenge we also used to not having in what this takes. It's much easier to drop a roll of documents on a table and walk away. It's much easier to receive an RFI over an email and respond to it than work in one place. What ACC does for us in the main contractor world, if I can put it that way, and this freaked people out, and I didn't actually like it, so it may freak some of you out, is that it gives open cards, open honesty. So it'll point out issues to everybody. It'll point out RFIs to everybody. It'll point out issues that are overdue to everybody. It'll show everybody that Joe Soaps did his job. And I liked it because it's not sitting in his inbox. It's right in the front of everybody. And the main contractor, when he's moaning, is actually there. So main contractor integrations work. The challenge is subcontractors. That's the next challenge. And then handovers, it's working. AMs and FMs are coming. But interface in the future, I think, is hell of exciting. Apologies, there's a couple of things that I said missing, but ultimately, I think everybody's got a perspective of where we're going and what we're doing. I'm going to open it to Q&A.
Yes, absolutely.